So welcome along once again to the Cardiff City phone-in, and we've got a really good panel tonight and loads to talk about because obviously we've been doing so well. So Matthew Harris, who we just decided is the youngster in the pack, is with us tonight. Welcome back, Matthew. Richard Davis, legend in Tapswell, is also with us. And in the bottom corner, we have Mike Young. And I'm going to ask, before I'll go to Mike in a second, because Mike's in LA, actually, which is really exciting. So Matthew, if you can hear us now, can I ask you a question? Matthew?
Of course you can.
Have you ever heard of Superted?
Yes, of course.
Hey, well done.
I have watched it, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, good man, well done. So Mike is the man who's responsible for creating Superted, Mike, yeah? Or, back in 79, did you say? Is that right?
The first books were published in 1979, yeah. And then we started to make the show in the very early 80s, 81, 82, 83. And S4C commissioned them. They wanted one thing that would take their logo around the world, because 99% of the other stuff they produce is for Wales and in Welsh. And it did. It's not sold in North Korea, but it's sold everywhere else in the world. It's easier to tell you where it's not sold.
Wow. And where did you make it? Where was it made in those days? Where was it originally produced? Did you have your own studio for that?
Our idle boast was that we moved into a disused bank in Tiger Bay, above Lloyd's Bank, and basically unwittingly started the regeneration of what we now call Cardiff Bay. Tiger Bay was like a no-go area at one point, and fundamentally other companies came there, post-production houses, other graphics houses, and gradually, bit by bit, it started to start the regeneration. We even drew an image, a cartoon image of like a Queen Mary parked sideways across the bay, which would be like a pier on which people would walk up and down and have coffee and restaurants and all the rest of it in a fantasy sort of thing, but to make it a tourist trap. They should have done it actually, because it would have been an incredible tourist attraction. But anyway, and now I went there. I was down in the bay last week, and it's completely transformed.
Yeah, because you just come back to, you're in LA now, in California, so you've been in Wales for a couple of weeks, and we're talking, which leads us into Cardiff City, of course, because I'm guessing you're a lifelong City fan. Is that right?
Yeah, since 1955.
Oh, that'll qualify you. That's fair enough. Yeah, we'll accept that. Which is, was it your dad you went down with first, just out of interest?
Sorry, he said.
Was he with your dad, Mike, that you first started going down?
Yeah. I went to see John Charles playing for Leeds and Trevor Ford playing for Cardiff against each other, two Welsh players, battling it out there. And that was the first ever game that I ever watched. And Cardiff won, and Fordy scored a couple of goals, and also John Charles scored a goal as well, if I remember rightly. And he was a real gent. One of the Leeds players kicked the ball away when it was a free kick, and he ran after it, picked it up, brought it back, and put it on the spot for the Cardiff free kick. That was back in those days.
Things have changed just a bit. There's loads of great stories. Obviously, we'll talk about more recent stuff with Cardiff City. I'm sure if anyone wants to chip in with questions for Mike while he's with us, that'd be great. But Mike, your recent visit coincided with a team who'd scored, I think, like one goal all season or something, that started popping in the back of the net for fun. They scored 5 in one game. You saw the Portsmouth game. You saw 7 goals in 2 home games. Where have you been all season?
Exactly. And on top of that, to add to the boast, I actually watched the West Brom game on television live here. I also watched the Swansea game live on television in the USA. And I even managed to watch a version of the Bristol Rovers game. And so I literally have not seen Cardiff City lose a game in a disastrous season like this one, as it started.
So what's your take on, from in a way, I mean, you've been here for a couple of weeks, but you've been in the States for quite a long time. The Cardiff City fan thing is still within you. What's your take on the season in terms of all of a sudden now, we're getting good results and we've turned around? How do you sort of interpret that?
Well, what was really refreshing was the football they were playing. Okay. They were playing really good, decisive football. And I was scared of the West Brom game, thinking, oh my God, if they do that away, then maybe they'll get punished. But no, they really tightened up. And they played, they had a couple of chances. And, basically, it's really refreshing, fundamentally. To digress slightly, is that when Cardiff City Stadium was being built, and I brought a deputation over here, and we took them to see the Lakers and the Rams and the Dodgers, and showed them how in American sports they bring the crowds in early and entertain them, before the game. We tended to go down the pub and rush into the game in the last 10 minutes, you know what I mean, back in the UK. And we designed and built a family enclosure area. Julian Jenkins was the marketing director at that time. Yeah. And, with shootouts and video games, and we did a lot of these murals of Cardiff greats, Robin Friday, John Tashik, and, Scott Young and all the rest of them. And they were if you ever went in that area, then these 20-foot high murals were there. And Cardiff City beat Manchester United and beat Arsenal as the best marketing club of the year back then. Of course, we got, into the Premiership and got promoted and got relegated, then went up again. But fundamentally, the one thing that we were winning.
Yeah.
Cardiff and Millwall at one time had the worst reputations in the entire football leagues, for hooliganism and all the rest of it. And so it was, Disney will tell you that 80% of their money is when they bring people into the theme park early.
Wow.
Okay. Not just the fee at the gate. And so that was what we were encouraging at that time.
Yeah.
Been a little bit lost lately from what I could see. But, I was talking to Julian about that very thing.
Well, there's loads to talk to you about, and I make no apology for talking to you for a fair while at the beginning of the show. There's loads more to talk about, but I'll come back to you. There's one comment I'm just going to put to you, and I go to Richard from Rhys Evans. He's talking about the football, is so tribal here, and sport in the States is sort of a different concept. And can you see the comment on the screen there, Mike? Have you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I go. Well, first of all, you're thousands and thousands of miles. You can't just go over to Bristol or up to Birmingham, and very short journeys. Here, it's literally thousands of miles, and so therefore you don't get the away fan sort of syndrome that we have and that. Now, last night I was watching on TV. I didn't go there to see LAFC play Vancouver in a like playoffs football, and there's a section now of the LAFC crowd that's really learned how to support, and it's just one area. The rest are like watching, eating food and watching. But this one Bob Bank type area, they go in nuts, and it's a gradual process. The other thing is kids now, I coach my grandson's team under nines, and they all wear superstar, Haaland or, Messi or whatever the hell it is, shirts. You don't see baseball shirts being worn in the same way. All the kids wear football shirts, so it's gradually getting there. That's all I can say to you. It's gradually becoming, they're learning.
Yeah. And well, hopefully there'll be some traits that they don't pick up from the British game. But Rita's got one more question. Sorry, Richard, I'll come to you in a second. But it's just really interesting. When do we ever talk about America versus the UK and stuff with with football? So any sort of club recognition in the States? I was in Memphis, and a group of Mexicans. In terms of Cardiff City, the awareness of Cardiff City in America. I was in Memphis, and a group of Mexicans recognized the shirt because they knew of Gary Medel.
Yeah,
Which is surreal because even though he's Chilean, but awareness of Cardiff City, I suppose during the Premiership years, it must have obviously risen considerably. Mike, yeah.
Well, research, what I just said is that fundamentally you see more kids walking around with, Haaland or Ronaldo or Bellingham.
Cardiff City shirts?
No, unfortunately, no.
No.
Except the ones that I make my kids wear. If you remember, we created history by producing the very first. You go look at Wikipedia; it'll tell you the very first shirt sponsorship was Superted on the Cardiff City shirt back in 1984, wherever it was.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay, and what the funny thing was that during the horrible red years, as I'll call them,
yes, yeah.
when we changed to red, I'd be here in LA watching, and we were in the first division in the Premiership, and you'd literally see people in the crowd wearing the Superted shirt with the flash because it was the only blue shirt that they still sold in the shop. Okay, and so fundamentally, it was the first, and it hung in there for some of the wrong reasons,
And you showed a picture on your phone, I don't know whether you can quickly share that again. That's
my
pretty cool.
grandson wearing the old Superted flash shirt,
Lovely. My other favorite one, Richard, was the Super Furry Animals one. Yeah. Taking a kind of a sponsorship in a different direction. That was a different one. I think Robin Friday was involved in that one, if I remember as well. And the particular song, which we can't actually sing the chorus of on this particular show. But you were up at West Brom on the weekend, and what's it like? Because I know you travel a lot with City. What's it like now compared to what it was just a few weeks ago, when you can go into a ground for the game and you think, oh, you might get something out of this. You might score a goal or something.
I suppose it's been, like I said, it's been very much sort of like the difference in the past month. It's just been unquestionable, really, because we've now played. The midfield axis is better.
Yeah.
You've got Robertson, Turnbull, Colwell is now on a different planet, and you've got Tanner who's really started to find some consistency as well out wide. The back four is probably as most solid it has been for quite a while now. It seems that they're actually a unit. Now, it might be that Chambers and Guterres needed time to play together.
Yeah.
Then obviously we signed Fish, didn't we? And we signed the Norwegian lad, Darlett.
Darland, yeah.
Yes, we signed him as well. There was uncertainty with the keeper situation, but Almic's come back in, and he's a decent keeper with his feet. Plus, he commands it. I think he commands his box probably slightly a bit better than Harvard, but I thought Harvard is a good backup. But then we just look a better team. We look better organised. We're playing better football. But on Saturday, we've had two really good home performances, I think, over the last 2 weeks. Certainly after the last 7 days, against obviously putting their Plymouth to the sword when it could have been 6, 7, or 8, and then doing the same. Then really the 2-0 scoreline flattered Portsmouth, but then to go to West Brom and then put in a really good defensive sort of shit. We could have nicked the game towards the end. We had a chance. I can't remember. But what impressed me more was the defensive unit. People put their bodies on the line, getting the blocks in. We looked really solid. West Brom didn't look really like they hurt us in that 90 minutes. Apart from that, I think they had a free header towards the end, and Alnwick pulled off a decent save as well.
Yeah,
it's been what Reece has done there with the same group of players that Bullet had. It's just unquestionable because that he hasn't been afraid to change it up, And you can see what's wrong. I think everyone can see what's wrong with that midfield at the start of the season. The midfield is one pace and it's one dimensional. And the ball gets to, I don't know, to the 18-yard box of the opposition, and then five passes later, it's back in a half again. And you just think, well, it's not. That's not football. It just reminds me sometimes. Look, the attacking football over the last, certainly for the Plymouth and Portsmouth game, reminded you of when we used to watch Dave Jones' side. All we're missing is a goal scorer.
Yeah. That continues to be the case. But Matthew,
It's been the cases. We lost Bothroyd and Chopra.
Yeah, that's right. If I just bring Matthew in on that, obviously Matthew, Callum Robinson. I remember when Errol Bullitt was a manager, and he talked about the strikers that we had, and he sort of said, and of course we've also got Callum Robinson, as if he didn't really count. But he's really come good, and he really looks confident and happy again, doesn't he, Matthew? And he's scoring goals. It looks a bit of a handful, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think we're playing him in his more natural position, I think, and that's what's and he thrives off pass and movement. And before it was just get the ball to him, and he had no one around him. Now you've got Tanner, you've got Colwell, and you've got the likes of Willock and players coming off the bench who can do the pass and movement consistently. And you've got to think as well. We've got players like Isaac Davis to come back as well.
Tete.
I'm not sure how Ntete would fit into this team at the moment, but it's probably going to be a lot better than Kanga and Mete as well. So
yeah,
I think Robertson is a quality player. When we signed him, there was a lot of buzz around him, and we've never really seen him for more than the 5 games in a row. So it's nice to see him get a consistent run of fixtures, consistent run of minutes, and I think as long as he can stay injury free, he'll probably be one of the first names on the team sheet.
So you've kind of mentioned 2 things there, which I think are quite important. One of them is, and I'll go around the panel with this actually. The first bit, I think, the idea that he's picking a win inside. Like Mike started watching us. It was in 1955 or something crazy years ago. Yeah, it's almost like an old school thing. You won the game, so keep the same side. But I just think that's really making a big difference in terms of the players feel wanted. They look at a smile on their face. They look like they're enjoying it. And the other part of it, Matthew, which you also kind of alluded to a bit, really, if you think about that front 4, Colwell, El Ghazi, Tanner, and Robinson, they're kind of picking themselves. They are the front 4, and I think we're beginning to create partnerships in the pitch more than we had done before. Would you agree with that?
I think so. I think El Ghazi's already come out and said he knows he can do better, and he hasn't played for a while. So he's going to find his feet. He's going to get better and better. And you can see an understanding between Colwell and Tanner and Robertson and Tanner, and Turnbull knows where he's going to be. And they're playing balls. Whereas before we were very turgid, very middle, pass the ball back, like you were saying earlier. Now we get the ball and we're not afraid to just put it into an area, knowing that the player will probably be there. And I think that's given us that dynamic edge. And we've got the players and the pace and the skill that's showing it off. And I think, obviously that West Brom game was probably the first. I know we lost to Hull. That was Reese's first game.
Even then we scored first.
We did. That West Brom game was probably the first big test for us. Yeah. And we could have won it. So it's really impressive. And, you don't go into games on the weekend now thinking, how many is it going to be?
No, you don't really. I mean, bearing in mind, we played Sunderland opening game of the season. Okay, we lost 2-0, but they didn't look, and they're going really well now. They didn't look that special on the day, actually. And again, we had nothing up front, so I think maybe that's why we ended up losing. But I don't look at the table now, and really, I'm not really terrified of the other teams so much now. I think the players really believe in themselves. So if I ask Mike this question, which going back onto what we continue actually conversation with Matthew in a way, the idea of partnerships. Now, it might be a weird analogy, but in your business in which you are very successful, I'm sure there's been a lot of times probably over the years in different sort of facets of the production team, etc., where partnerships and team building and all that kind of stuff is massively important, I'd imagine.
It certainly is. By the way, the film industry in UK and in America is going through a torrid time at the moment, both live action and animation. without going into too many, the SVODs basically killed the theatrical business. And also the linear channels. People don't watch the linear channels anywhere near as much. And big studios own these places, and yet the SVODs are not that profitable, if you know what I mean. So we're going through a really changed state at the moment. And part of the reasons that I want to produce now, I'm back in Wales, a movie, an animated movie that we doing. And you touched on something very close to my heart, because I optioned The Greatest Player Who Never Saw, the Robin Friday book.
Yeah.
And the sad story is in 2019, we had all the money to make it. We had a major British star attached. He came out of a series that he was making, and he had a problem. I'll just put it as simple as that. And he asked if we could postpone the October, November shoot to February, March the following year, which is 2020. And of course, COVID came along. He actually did us a favor, to be honest with you, because we would have been dead in the water. And last year we had the writer's strike and the actor's strike. And so now we're back on chart. And one of the reasons I was in Wales was meeting with Film Wales and others about shooting the movie in Wales early, in the spring of next year. We've got a good star lined up on it. We want a couple of other named Welsh, ideally big name Welsh supporting stars for the film. But you can't make this stuff up. We back in mid-70s. Cardiff City signed Robin Friday for £40,000. Okay, the crowd, 50,000, I think it was close to, showed up to see him play against Fulham, who had Bobby Moore and Georgie Best on the team. Now Georgie Best didn't play in the game, but Bobby Moore did. Well, this long-haired lout with his socks down on his ankles ran on the field and proceeded to take poor Bobby Moore apart. Okay. Wow. Ran him ragged, scored 2 goals, hit the post, hit the crossbar. And basically, and I turned to my friend there and I said, how have we signed him? Why didn't Manchester United or us or the big teams of the day, sign him? And we learned later, much, much later, that he was bailed out of Cardiff prison to actually play in that game in the afternoon. He travelled down on a platform ticket from Reading and pocketed the fare that the club had given him, and then he's arrested and for travelling without a platform ticket and had to be bailed out to actually play in the game. So that was the beginning. And so it's a great movie. It's a great script, and what we were saying earlier, in America now, you can see all these games on Peacock and on Apple and on Paramount Plus. They all carry all different, the championship games and the UEFA games, everything, and they get massive audiences. I saw a question earlier pop up about fan base. I run a page on Facebook called Cardiff City 125 years it's called. We've got, I think, a couple of hundred members on it, and a lot of them live all over America, different parts of the United States. So yeah, there is a Bluebird fan base here, and we don't even mind foreigners from Wales joining it. So if you want to join the
that's very kind of you.
Facebook page, you can.
What I was going to ask you with that was the 125 years thing, right? Were you? I was. I'll just put it out there. Were you disappointed that if I asked you what was your favorite Cardiff City kit of all time, Mike? Yeah, I'm going to take a guess. I might know. What was your favorite Cardiff City kit of all time?
Player of all time?
No, the favorite kit.
Oh, the kit. Well, as long as it was blue and it had the Bluebird badge on the side of it. The Malaysia thing drives me insane. But basically, I think the John Tushak, Brian Clark era was my
Brian
favorite.
Clark's in the kit I'm thinking of. I think
Yeah, and we saw that game as well. Real Madrid.
Yeah, amazing.
Brian Clark, and you can't make this stuff up, can you?
No, just talking of which stuff you can't make up. I'll just ask you one quick thing before I go to Richard. Yeah, do you think would Americans do you think have an interest or be captivated in this eccentric maverick Robin Friday type character as a story? Do you think it would grab their attention?
Oh, I'm absolutely certain of it. Okay, and it's I'm rewatched the Brian Clough thing, with Michael Sheen, and introduced it. And at that time, when they made that film, it hardly got anything in the States, and now it's going crazy. People are downloading it and watching it and buying it and renting it, and because now they're into it themselves. It's taken 35 years, but it's got there now. In fact, the ratings are as high as baseball and the other big American sport. Yeah,
it's very encouraging.
It's like the head injuries in. I know we get them in football as well, but basically the head injuries in American football are just it's a pandemic. Okay, and so reading, writing, thinking parents guide their kids away from it a bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you can, obviously the head injuries are important because they've got the helmets on and everything else, so the collision factor is high there, isn't it? Richard, the question I was trying to squeeze a response out of Mike on, but was the favorite kit. What's your favorite Cardiff City kit of all time, Richard?
Blue, my first one, blue with the yellow and white stripe.
That's the bunny. Bunny.
Only because I remember that when I got first taken in Indian Park, the drain pipes outside the grandstand, they were painted with blue, yellow, white. The turnstile doors, the door between the canton and the enclosure of the grandstand. It was it's something I remember. There's something. It was an iconic kit, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah. Robin Friday, of course. Robin Friday,
yeah. Well, indeed, John Buchanan was my hero.
Yeah. What was it? I think for a lot of people, we remember those days fondly.
Halcyon days.
Were you a little bit disappointed that the club didn't maybe choose to run with such an iconic kit for the 125th season?
Yeah, I was, and to be honest, it was like bear in mind it's the 125th anniversary of the club. Is that the away kit and the third kit are just dreadful. It's just they've missed a real massive trick. Yeah, it seems like we'll give you the round Bluebird badge. Fine, thank you. But then for the away kit, for the away kit, we're going back to the one with the Chinese dragon on, and then that third monstrosity. It just seems they've missed a real massive. It's been another own goal, isn't it? Really.
There he is. There he is.
Superb. Another massive own goal from
Friday, the new character.
Another massive own goal for the commercial department, wasn't it? So they seem to.
It seems
they seem pretty good at that.
It's a bit of a damp squib, but I do think, Matthew, would you agree? I don't know. Maybe you don't, but do you think maybe? Certainly in terms of social media stuff, do you think the club has started to slightly improve its sort of PR stuff and the way that it gets good stuff up there about goals and the fans and the kind of digital storytelling, I suppose?
Yeah, I think it's been a lot better over the last couple of years. A club of our size, and you look at what some of the transfer announcement videos other clubs are doing, you think there's quite a lot of comedy and good production value in there. So I think we're coming round to that. I think we could have done more with the kit. I don't understand why we don't have the Bluebird badge on all three kits this year, not just the one. crying out for a yellow away kit. We've been crying out for a yellow away kit for a while, I think. But I suppose you're always going to be annoying someone. So I guess it's trying to play that good balance. But I definitely think the club are improving with the digital side of things in terms of videos on social media and getting that sort of content out. I
mean, it'd be interesting, somebody like Mike was in charge there. I wonder what kind of stuff would be going out about Cardiff City then. But maybe that's a challenge for the future. I want to just compare two things, Matthew, with you, which I'm sure put a smile on your face. Yeah. 4 games unbeaten. Lots of clean sheets, and slightly west of us. 40 miles down the road. I think it's like 27 hours now since they scored, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite ironic that when we drew with them back at the start of the season, and we had a few terrible results after that, and they were saying, "Oh, we're going one way, you're going the other," and within the space of 5 games, it's turned the other way. And only 5 games ago, we beat Millwall 1-0 at home, and then this weekend they lost 1-0 at home to Millwall. So
managed by Neil Harris, of course.
Yes, so it goes to show how quickly tables can turn in football. We're beaten in 5 now, and we don't. You look at Norwich, and they're a good team. They're a very good team, but you think the way we've been playing, and why can't we get another 3 points at home? And I think it was the interview with Alnwick at the end of the game.
Yeah,
saying how good Reza is with man management and how all the players really like him, and we'll probably go on to talk about it later. But for me,
we're going into it now, really. Whether we should make the decision and what that decision should be in terms of longevity as well. Because we've taken on managers. There was a certain Mr. McCarthy. Apparently Celtic wanted him, so we gave him a 40-year deal or something. We make these kind of decisions. So it's quite a big decision. Do we stick with Rizzo now? Do we give him to the end of the season? Would you give him, longer than that? What do you? Has he done enough to warrant that now? Do you think, Matthew? Firstly,
we're playing really well. You can't deny that, and I think we've got another international break now coming up in 2 or 3 games' time. So I think I give him this next 3 games now, and if it keeps going the way it is, then you've got to give him at least till the end of the year, and if not longer. There's a few names out there that are being mentioned. I know Bilic is one of them.
But Bilic has come back into it again by saying apparently he's available now.
It's not inspiring, and I know he has done well with West Brom and West Ham in the Premier League, but the players seem to like Reza. We're playing.
They really do, don't they?
The fans are loving it. We're playing the football we've wanted to be playing for a long time that we haven't seen, and we're utilising the talent that we've got. So I think, for me, Reza till the end of the season is a no-brainer, really.
Okay, Mike, what's your thoughts on that? Mike?
Me? Sorry. You woke me up then, sorry. Oh, my goodness. The guy, first of all, one of you said earlier, with Robinson, Colwell, etc., they weren't being picked or been sent on after 70 minutes, in earlier games, So they really, encourage him to go forward and play football. Some of the football in that first half against Plymouth was scintillating, as good as you see anywhere. Okay, and the people around me, you could tell they were stunned and shocked at what they were seeing, because they were used to other stuff, and you still hear them complain about the goalie passing the ball out, short passes and such. But what they do, they're pulling the opposition's players forward, and you play out a defense. I know the American goalie, poor guy, he made it. I forgot his name. Sorry,
Horvath.
Was not really great on the ball. By the way, that's one of the things that's still growing here, is that kids in Europe and in Brazil, they sleep with the soccer ball, don't they? You know what I mean? Whereas here they tend to play when you're coaching them, and when kids can't go down the park and on their own and put some coats on the ground and anymore. Okay, unfortunately. And so no, he absolutely does deserve it. Obviously we did play 1 or 2 lower echelon teams, and so but the bottom line is, even if we lose now, he's playing attacking great football.
Yeah, and I think, Richard, that's the point Mike's making there is a really, really important one, because when Errol Bullitt first took on the job, I hadn't heard of him, to be honest, but I like some of the things that he said, and he was kind of implying that the best form of defense is attack, essentially, but then it became more and more rooted in let's not lose, whereas Rizza effectively is playing actually the same formation, but with the the exciting pegs, if you like, in the holes to give us some fluidity, which we just didn't have before, did we? So what's your thoughts on him?
No, to be honest, I quite like what he's done. I think he's obviously got a football philosophy, what he wants to play, and he's encouraged the players to do so. He's made changes which potentially, if we had maybe another one of Bullett's coaches still there, then we might still have that midfield access for Royal Office and one other. He's entrusted Ruben Colwell, who is now beginning to look the player that we all hoped that he would be, because against Plymouth and Portsmouth, at times it was like a 15-year-old playing against a team of under-9s, and he'd take 2 touches and he's away. But his only thought process is to go forward. And then you've got people like Turnbull and you've got Robertson, and they're doing a really good job in midfield, but they're breaking forward as well. They're assisting, they're getting shots off. So what is there not to like about what he's done?
So how long would you give him?
To be honest, how long would I give him?
Yeah.
I would, I'm in the boat. Yeah, I think he should be given longer. I agree with that. I just think we could do what we've done previously when we did the same with Morrison. We did the same with Hudson.
Yeah,
and then we give him long-term sort of like long-term deals, and then it goes pear-shaped. But I think, in fairness to Rizza, he has got a better squad of players, and they're all playing. So you've seen that Perry and G has improved no end again. So he's now back to how he was. He's taken Collins out of the side. He's put O'Dowd, who is slotted in quite nicely there. You've got Bagan as well, who can play there as well. So he's not scared to chuck these players in. I suppose our only real weakness is sometimes our bench, because we haven't really got, apart from, because Robinson's now, like Matt said, he's playing really good football now. It really is, and he's looking, and he looks like he's enjoying himself as well. So, and he's got options around him. So I think, what is there not to like? I mean, sometimes you've got to bite the, you've got to take the plunge, haven't you? And I think he has deserved. I would give him until the end of the season, to be honest.
Okay.
It might annoy Peter Bradbury if he's listening, but I would give him.
Would you agree with that, Mike? By the way, just because Matthew's up for that. Mike, did you also agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I was reading a comment from Anwick, who said, his attitude to the team, Rizza's attitude to the team, even in his texts that he sends to them, is upbeat and fantastic. And that I've not heard about Bullitt ever. You know what I mean? So it seems like he's got really good, strong personality, as well as look. Yeah, I hope we're not all wrong. I really would like to see him sign now as the team manager and given a good run.
That relies on the club, though, Matthew, of course, doesn't it? The club to make an announcement and tell us what they're doing, and come out with some sort of strong forthright statement. Can we rely on the club for that? I wonder, Matthew, what do you think?
Well, I think Bullitt had to go when he went. He had to. We were just going. We were going one way, and we were going to be adrift and no chance of staying up by December, or probably even earlier than that. So I think it was hard for them to have a plan, because obviously they gave him the 2 years in the summer. So they're expecting. So they weren't looking for a new manager,
which we were all happy with, to be honest.
We were, and
mostly
there
at the
was,
time. I think. Yeah.
But it continued where it left off last season, and even with all the new players, and so I think if we do well now, the next couple of games, that Tan will make the decision, because Tan's always wanted attacking football. He's always wanted this style of football. Lots of goals, shooting from outside the box, all this sort of stuff. So he's probably watching that, enjoying it. So hopefully, if we can get a result now, our next couple of games are West Brom, Norwich, Luton, Blackburn, and QPR. If we can get 3, I think QPR is after the international break. So if we can get another 6-7 points out of those 3 games, then I can't see them not being given it to him before we go into the international break.
Okay, well, yeah, I don't rely on the club to make decisions. I don't know. But talking to the club,
decision that makes sense.
And talking it's a little bit. You mentioned Vincent Tan, and Vincent Tan's been in charge of the club for a long time. We mentioned the shirt thing. We don't want to go into that one again, but I'm sure we're all fairly happy that Blue are playing in blue again. But you did mention, Mike, I don't know why you want to say about it, but you mentioned earlier that during leading into the during the lockdown period, there was a consortium which was being put together to maybe try to take the club in a different direction.
Yeah, they approached me as I said to them, I'm not investing millions and millions of pounds. I can't afford to divorce from my wife, into Cardiff City. But they approached me as someone who could work with them and talk them through the process, and a South African investor and others. And but it didn't get very far, to be absolutely honest with you. Vincent Tan was very difficult to deal with at the time, and of course at the time the club wasn't taking in any money, and there was a big lawsuit hanging over the club, with the unfortunate plane crash accident, etc., and so fundamentally it didn't get very far. And I would think anyone trying to deal with Vincent Tan would find the same thing. Now, someone earlier that said, I know Ryan Reynolds, and what they've done at Wrexham is staggering. And what I really like is that they genuinely are fanboys. Okay, both of them. Okay, and in fact, it's hard to, I understand, for them to get him to concentrate on anything else, like the movie he's making at the moment. But basically, what they've done at Wrexham is staggering when you think about it. We'll now see, if they get promoted again, you start to get into real money, for players, all the rest of it. And so that's the acid test, if they do get another promotion. But it helps Wales, and I think that it's good, good all around. I'm not one of these, hate Swansea guys. I respected them at the time. They were doing well in the Premiership, and their appointments of managers at that time were fantastic. Okay.
yeah, weren't they?
Yeah. So anyway, but the bottom line is that Vincent Tan, it's his money. He's invested in the club. Though again, they've had quite a bit of money out of the club when they got relegated a couple of times. A lot of that money went out. So as we saw when we look at the accounts. So basically, you never know if Ryan Reynolds comes along. I'll help them. Okay.
There we go. So can I just follow up on that that question? Loads of comments about kits away, by the way, which is great. So answer this any way you like. Yeah, Mike. You're a very successful person. Yeah, you had an idea, you developed it, you followed your dream. You're living in LA. You're doing very well. You're well connected and all the rest of it. Even though it's a difficult time. Comments about Cardiff City Football Club include the fact that you've got a chairman who's kind of fairly rarely there, and an owner who's never there, and then another guy in command who's busy selling cars, sort of thing. I just that's anecdotal, not factual, but do you? And you said about Swansea, and without getting into great detail, to be fair to Swansea, in all the honesty in the world, they've generally, maybe not so much recently, but generally been a pretty well-run club.
Yeah,
And they've had a kind of a vision, and they've done some really sensible things. Looking from afar at the way the club is now, do you have any kind of reservations about the way the club is run?
Yes, put me on the spot.
Leading question, sorry.
It's easy to be critical outside, etc. But Cardiff is the biggest club in Wales. It has the biggest catchment area in Wales. It has, the potential to be a really profitable concern. Okay, and I think there may be people out there now. A lot of these clubs have been bought by Americans and others, Saudi Emirates, etc., etc. So you never know. Someone could come along, and it's still a sleeping giant, in my opinion. Okay, and Vincent Tan, give it a go. We were in the Premiership twice. Malky came over. I got photographs of him in my studio at that time when we were showing them. I think I can't remember if I mentioned this before we got on air or not, but we basically took them to all the big sporting clubs in America to show them how they entertain the crowd, pull the crowd in hours and hours before the game, not just to run in 10 minutes from the pub, and fundamentally all that's possible now. It's all possible in marketing. Julian was a great marketing person, and he understood a lot of that. And so look, let's see, maybe something will come along. If they do, I'll support them.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Very diplomatic answer, by the way. Well done.
Yeah.
Richard, there's some interesting comments coming through. Giving Rizza till Christmas if you're still doing well, and then have a January budget. And then another question, which is a really good one, actually. I think from Jonathan Davis, Richard. We should approach somebody like Barry Murphy about being Rizza's assistant, because remarkably, he's done it all mostly with under 21 coaching staff. I know Darren Purse has been involved. Maybe that's been the turnaround in the defensive side of things. But, do you see that as being a possibility, bringing someone else in to work alongside him?
I suppose that all depends what the club do with him, doesn't it? Really, because he can bring in his own coaching team, couldn't he? But he's already brought in Gavin Ward as his goalkeeping coach. So Gavin Ward knows the club. So it's good to have Gavin Ward back there.
Can you do the Gavin Ward for us, Richard? Now you've mentioned him, can you? There it is.
Yeah. Well, the Wardy workout was funny, wasn't it? And followed pre done by Roger Ansbury, wasn't it? Roger Ansbury ranked team first. And then, they followed by the Gavin Ward disco workout. I think if he's going to be given a longer time in the job, then I think he might want to bring in another experienced coach. And it all depends what he wants to do with Darren Purse. You want Darren Purse to go back into the under 21s. I think it's. I think he might need someone experienced. He will need someone experienced alongside him. Barry Murphy person. I mean, he's come up a few times, hasn't he?
Yeah,
he's quite young. So whether he might want someone a little bit more experienced, not like I would say. When Trump had like Lenny Lawrence alongside him, didn't he? Maybe you do need that sometimes. That older.
Lenny's still available.
Well, he's managing up at Hartlepool at the moment. He's helping them out.
He came
back. Yeah, I know he's about. I think he's about 76 now.
He fit in nicely.
Well, he probably fit quite nicely, actually. I think if we do give him until the end of the season, then he needs to appoint his own coaching team as well, doesn't he?
But of course, and then there's there's the financial implication of that, isn't it? Because we're still paying off the the ex-managers, and maybe maybe that's where Darren Pearson, people like ex-City players on the books, maybe is the way it's more likely to be. I would have thought. I don't know. Matthew, Jeff Dela Cruz makes a really good question with NG. Finally picking up. Took him a while actually. I thought to pick up 5 yellows, so he's out now on the weekend. So who's coming in a right back?
Probably Jamal Collins, isn't it? I'd have thought. I know he hasn't had many games, but that's got to be the natural replacement, unless Bagan can play on that side and they'll have a Dowder on the left. I'm not 100% sure, but or Dalland. I don't know if Dalland can play in the. I know we signed him, so he had a good left foot. So I think we've got options, but we'll miss NG because
he's been playing really well, hasn't he?
The last couple of games he's been playing out.
Because he went off the boil, didn't he? But he's back on it again.
I think so, and he's given the creativity. He does like to go forward, NG, and he does get goals for us. So to have Tanner down there with him and Colwell coming in and Turnbull, he's got more of a license to roam down the wing. But when Collins first signed for us, he looked really good and he had pace and he was playing well as well before he got. I think it did his ACL or one of those type of injuries. So I think he'd be fine to go in for that game.
Okay, Richard, do you want to quickly Capaccio or something like that? I don't know, or maybe Callum Chambers.
Chambers can play at right back, and then you can put Darland alongside Jesus.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe he might go 3. Maybe he might go 3 at the back. 3 centre halves, 2 wing backs.
Yeah, he could do.
And you can play, or you could have Tanner and O'Dowd as the wing backs.
Well, Steve Thomas agrees with that, by the way.
I just think it needs maybe a little bit of a tweak, but he hasn't been afraid to change, has he? So
no.
We'll see what Risa comes up with. What his plan is for Saturday.
I mean, Perry NG is a good example, Mike, of a lot of the players. I'm going to say they probably, to be honest with you, they probably felt as downhearted as we did having to play that style of football. It was so negative, so dour, and so depressing. You got Perry NG was out of form. He's playing really well again. Gutas was out. He's come back in. He's looking great. Chambers wasn't brilliant to start with, but now he's playing well again. O'Dowda, I think you said online you weren't a massive fan of O'Dowda, but maybe you're warming to him. But the point I'm making is these players they feel wanted now, and that's good management, isn't it? To encourage them and bring them on. He's doing a really good job in that way, isn't he?
Well, absolutely. And look, long way to continue. I hope I can watch the game on the Norwich game. I'm pretty sure I can this weekend because I'm the lucky mascot. They should be paying me to come there now. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're unbeaten. You're on an unbeaten run yourself, aren't you?
Yes.
Well, maybe they need to pay me to stay away because I went to the Leeds game and I haven't been to any of the home games.
You were terrible against Leeds.
So,
yeah. I've got to be honest with you. I've got to leave the call. We're 7 hours behind.
Yeah, it's nearly lunchtime, isn't
it? This week 7 hours. Next week is back to 8 hours because our clocks go back as well. And the studio is calling me like crazy.
Yeah, no problem, Mike. Thanks so much for being on. It's been a real pleasure to chat with you.
Pleasure.
Lovely to meet you.
Hopefully we get you on again.
Thank you, and fingers crossed. Okay.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks very much. Oh, that was actually great. We don't normally do like an intercontinental link up on the phone in, Matthew, as you know.
No.
There's loads of comments coming in here, but let's stick with the Perry NG thing for now because Perry, you've got like 5 minutes or so to go with the show, maybe a bit less. Perry NG, in my opinion, Matthew, is he plays a role that probably not many other players on the books could play because he does play that advanced position, doesn't he? I don't know. I can't think of another fullback who could do that. Callum Chambers can play at right back.
Yeah,
Capaccio is more of a wing back, but the Perry NG role. But the other side of that coin is just talk about it briefly with you and then Richard. Is just because that one player's out, you want to minimise the amount of juggling you do with the team, don't you?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, we've had the same starting 11 for 3 or 4 games in a row.
Yeah, and we've done great.
And it works, and all good teams have got that consistency of players coming in. So it'll be good to see another player get an opportunity. But it'll be interesting to see how Rizza deals with it. This is probably his first, I say challenge in terms of, a player being out injured or not being able to play the way he wants to play. So, but Norwich play open football, so it's going to be very interesting to see how we.
Should be a great match, actually.
I hope so.
Yeah. So Kyle has come up with following on from his earlier comment. He makes a really good point, which I wasn't aware of. That he could be a great assistant or coach, but I feel we need a real leader or a manager. And Bilic has worked with him in the past. That's quite an interesting one. Do you see any possibility, Richard, in Slaven Bilic coming to the club? Or
No.
is his press team putting those comments
I
out?
think sometimes it's just paper talk, isn't it? Because he will want a massive budget. He's not going to come. He's not going to come to here and start like, I'm happy with what we got. He's going to look He's going to look at Kanga and Metse. Are these my 2 other options up front? And he's probably going, no. So and I think Jeff Dela Cruz is just about Riddle. Like, he maybe just chuck him in, because I think. But just going back to the fullback. What about Joel Bagan?
Yeah.
Joel Bagan's come back, and he's come back quite well.
I always like Joel Bagan, but
I like him. He's solid, but and maybe he can play that. Well, maybe O'Dowd can switch, and Bacon goes to left back.
I think it'd probably be Callum Chambers. Is my guess, but we'll see. Our fish. There's a good call, Martin Ryan. Very, very good call.
Oh, I forgot about Will.
Yeah.
I forgot about Will Fish. Blimey.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. We got Fish. We got Darland, but the team's going so well.
I forgot we signed Fish.
They're not getting the look in, and they're really good players. There's loads more comments as ever in the thread, so thank you for that. And again, I point people towards looking through the chat, because maybe all football clubs are the same, but I'm going to be biased. I love the dialogue that goes on between the Cardiff City fans, and some really kind of knowledgeable and articulate comments in there actually. So in the next couple of weeks, Nigel Blues is stepping into the hot seat, because I'm away from Monday for another few days. I'm retired now, so I've got all over the place, in case you haven't noticed. But so just between the three of us, I'm going score draw on the weekend. Norwich. What about you, Richard?
I'm going to go 2-1.
That's annoying, because I was also going to go 2-1.
2-1 to City, yes?
2-1 City, yeah.
Yeah, definitely 2-1 to City. Yeah. Don't forget to vote for Swansea's goal of the month as well.
Yeah, well, I think Mike told us off for that earlier, didn't he? So yeah. But anyway, let's hope you're both right. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm just really looking forward to it. And there was a time I just wasn't looking forward to go and watch City play. It was horrible, but I'm looking forward to it.
I mean, Steve Thomas, I met with Steve after the Plymouth game, and we went back to have a quick pint, and met up with a couple of former 1927 club members. And we're sitting in the pub and think, what are we going to moan about today? Got nothing to moan about.
You can't moan a 5-0, can you really?
Nothing to moan about. No, the only thing we can moan about is that during the second half, a cloud appeared over the sun. Put their jackets back on. No, it's just.
That's a reasonable moan. That's a decent moan, that is, yeah.
That was a decent moan, yes.
Anyway, thank you both very much. It was lovely to have a mic on. It was really interesting to hear that stuff.
Brilliant.
Cheers,
really
both.
Thanks, both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.